Hey y'all, so everybody knows that wheels and stance can make or break a car. So today we're going to go over wheel fitment and tire sizes on the 72 Nova. All right, so you definitely don't want to spend all that money on these fancy wheels and just pray that they fit. So you can tell here we've got these nice tools from Verified Fabrication, front and rear, and we've got our tires mocked up on them. So when you're going from something like this, which is a 205 70 14 factory wheel size, to a 255 40 19 and a 305 35 20, there's a lot of difference there. So we've got to make sure before we order these two-piece wheels that we get them fitted and sized correctly. All right, so we've got a RodTech coilover system on this car with 13-inch Wilwood brakes. So obviously that's going to bring the stance down, so it's going to bring our tire closer to the wheel opening. So we've got to make sure that the tire is centered up in there, and when we turn it lock to lock, we don't have anything that's hitting, rubbing, and so forth. If you come back here, we've done the RodTech coilover system in the rear. We've also mini tubbed this, and we've got a narrow 9-inch rear end. So that's going to be way different than anything that came off this from the factory. So again, we've got a 305 35 20 here mocked up on our Verified Fabrication tool, and we're going to make sure that this thing is centered up in that wheel opening, and as the car moves, the suspension articulates, we're not going to have any rubbing. All right, so we'll pull this wheel fitment tool off. We'll go over the ins and outs, how to get it set accordingly, and then adjust it. If you look at these, the Verified Fabrication tool, really nice. We've used this a lot as we're getting these two-piece wheels built so that we only buy them once. All right, as you can see here, this tool goes from 15 inches right here to 24. So you can see each mark is numbered, and that it goes by the diameter of the wheel. So in our case, we're going to do an 18 by 9 on the front, and we're doing a 19 by 11 on the back. 255 tire, and then a 305 tire. So we've got this, you can see, adjusted to the 18 mark all the way around. Each one of these aligns with the 18. And then the width is back here, so it's a little bit harder to see, but each one of these holes right here is in 1/2 inch increments from 7 to 11.5 inch. And we've got this one set at 9. So again, this is set up for an 18 by 9, and then we're going to set it up on the hub and then turn it lock to lock. One of the big things you got to do on this is get this car sitting at ride height on its weight. So you can see we've got jack stands front and rear. It's actually not sitting on these lift arms. We're trying to get all the weight on it so that when we turn this thing lock to lock, we have as close to a real world scenario as we can. Let's get this thrown up on there, and then we can turn this thing lock to lock. I can show you how we look at the backspace. I'm gonna be very careful not to mess up these pretty Wilwoods. You can see that just moved. So we've got the wheel tool on, we've got the car sitting on its weight, we've got the tire on the tool. So now we just got to get some nuts on here, hold this, and then we can get in, turn the thing lock to lock, see where we're going to rub, if we're going to rub, and then move the wheel in and out to get our backspace where we want it. All right, so now that the tool is on, one thing you have to look at when you're putting the, especially on like a big brake scenario, is make sure that it doesn't rub the outside of your caliper. Sometimes you have to remove your caliper to do this, just as we did in the rear. You'll see that this one has enough clearance that we're okay, but just watch that when you're using these. So tools bolted on, and to show you, I mean, these arms are loose right now, so we can move this wheel in and out, so we can change our backspace effectively, right? So we got to get this thing kind of centered up where we think we want it. You know, we want to make sure that when this thing is turned locked, we're not going to be rubbing right here. And then inside, we're not rubbing on the frame rail, we're not rubbing on sway bar or control arm and so forth. So let's get a tape measure. We'll kind of get this locked down and then see where it goes when we turn lock to lock. All right, so I'm going to set this to start out with at like a 6-inch backspace. And we'll go from there. So right here, there's a 1/2 inch nut that you just need to lock down. And that keeps this thing from moving once you have it roughly where you want it. We'll recheck that to make sure we're still right at 6 inches. We are, and then we're going to go around all 3 of these and check those. We've got all them locked in now to 6-inch backspace. So we're going to just go in and turn the wheel lock to lock and look and see, do we have any rubbing on the frame rail. Like I said, any of the suspension components will open and so forth. So let's go do that, see what we got. All right, so now you can see we'll turn it to the right, which is towards the passenger side. And that's full lock right there. And then we'll go back the other way, slowly, and check and see full lock to the left if there's any rubbing front or rear there. So that's it. Again, so we're going to show you one side. We're going to show you the passenger side on the front and rear, just to be safe, because a lot of times these cars weren't made perfect. There are tolerance differences and stack-ups. So before we get these wheels built, we want to check both sides and make sure that they were both clear at the same backspace. All right, so now we'll come to the rear, since we've got the front where we want it. The rear is a little bit easier because you don't have any turning on it, right? But you still want to make sure to get that wheel and tire centered up as best you can, because if you do have any body roll and it's too close, it could rub either inside or outside. So here we are. As you can see, we did have to remove the calipers on these rear brakes because they were going to hit the inside of these arms on the tool, but that's okay. We got them off. We've got the 305 35/19 tire on this thing. A big old tire, especially when you compare it to that stock 14 sitting over there. But we'll get this thing measured out and then see kind of where we're at on here. And you can see too, I mean, this thing's gonna be tucking quite a bit of this. It looks really good. It's gonna fit up in there. We just gotta make sure that it's not rubbing. But I believe we're gonna have plenty of room for this 305 tire, just getting it centered up how we want it. So let's kind of see where we're at right here. So I can get my whole hand, fingers in here, crawl up underneath this thing. Oh man, we got gobs of room in the front here and inside and up there. So we're actually looking pretty good where we're at. We'll measure it, see, and then get all these arms equal and then go from there. So that's a 5.5 inch, which is actually pretty common right there. So a 5.5, we'll go ahead and lock that down there. All right, so this is actually locked in at a 5.5 inch backspace on an 11 inch wide wheel, again 20 inch diameter. So should have a pretty good size lip back here, which we definitely want to make it look good and have that look that we're wanting. I mean, especially a car like this that's on coilovers, has big sway bars, 4-link, you don't have to worry about body roll as much as you do on, say, a traditional leaf spring car with just factory style shocks. This thing is going to be planted a lot better. It's not going to roll, so you can kind of get these gaps between your tire and your quarter panel. You can get them a little closer and not have to worry about it rubbing. So actually I think we're looking pretty good. Again, as we talked about before, we'll take both of these off and we will put them on the other side just to verify that these backspaces that we have them set at now are also going to work well with the backspace on the other side, just in case something's a little off, which, like I said, a lot of times it is. Yeah, we're looking pretty good here. You see this right here, that, and see this little sticking out right there? So that is our backspace, and that is what we're measuring. So you can see here, it's pretty easy. Anybody can do this. That's 5.5 inches, right? And I've got these all three set at 5.5 inches. To adjust that, all you have to do again is loosen that nut, and then these will slide, and you can get them set however you would like. All right, so one thing you hear when you're sizing wheels, ordering wheels, is backspace and offset. And they're two different things, but they essentially will tell you or tell the wheel manufacturer the same thing. So offset is what you hear, and what that is essentially your mounting surface right here. It's the distance from your mounting surface to the center line of the wheel barrel itself. And then backspace is this mounting surface to the outside of your wheel on the inside of it, the back side of it. So for all of our measurements, we use backspace. So what that tool is telling us is from right here to right here, if you put a straight edge right here, that's what the backspace is, and that's the way we order our wheels. So any wheel manufacturer should be able to take either measurement and convert it and be able to build a wheel accordingly. But for our manufacturers, we use Billet Specialties, Shot, American Racing, US Mag, etc. We go by backspace. So that's just a little bit of education on the difference on those when you're getting these sized appropriately. That's kind of wheel fitment. That's how we do it. These two-piece forged wheels aren't cheap, so we want to measure 2 or 3 times, order once, get what we need, not have to run any wheel spacers, not have any rubbing, and just have a really good fitment so that these wheels are as far out as we can get them so they look good, but we don't have any rubbing. So again, Verified Fabrication tool. We've had these things for a while. They work really good. We've used them on anything from a 15 to a 22-inch wheel, and up to, like I said, these right here will go 7 inches wide to an 11.5 inches wide wheel simulator. And but that's what we do. Again, get the thing sitting on its weight, add rod height how you want it, get the tires that you want, mount them on there, put them on, move it in and out, get your backspace, measure twice, cut once type deal. So there it is. This wheel fitment 101 on this 1972 Nova. We're about to get some two-piece forged Billet Specialties wheels from their Pro Touring series ordered for this thing. We can get them here, throw them on, see what they look like. I'm excited for y'all to see this as much as I'm excited to see it. So just wait a little bit. Once we get them on, we'll have some more content for you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.